All right, I want to read this quote from Stan Lee regarding Marvel. Marvel is a cornucopia of fantasy, a wild idea, a swashbuckling attitude, an escape from the humdrum and prosaic. It is a serendipitous feast for the mind, the eye, and the imagination, a literate celebration of unbridled creativity, coupled with a touch of rebellion and an insolent desire to spit in the eye of the dragon. Wow. Good morning, true believers. This is a video I really wasn't looking forward to making, but I want to do it. Stan Lee, former editor-in-chief at Marvel Comics, passed away yesterday at the age of 95. Stan Lee is a legend, forging modern storytelling in ways that can only be matched by Walt Disney and George Lucas. Stan impacted my life and the lives of children all over the world for 50 years, and for many years to come. His characters are eternal. They will live on forever. I wanted to make a video, show some appreciation to Stan Lee, and thank him for his life's work. Stan was born in 1922 in New York City. He's a World War II veteran. He got married in 1947 to Joan Lee, and they were married for 70 years. Joan unfortunately passed in 2017, and they have 2 children. Superheroes in the 1950s were mostly gods. They were indestructible, all-powerful. They were very hard to relate to. As Time Lee Comics became Marvel Comics, Stan Lieber became Stan Lee. And he revolutionized superheroes. He made them more human and gave them real problems so people could relate to them. Whether it's doing your homework, paying the rent, having relationship issues, having trouble fitting in society. Stan Lee also raised the bar for the literature and comics. The examples are endless, but he wrote the comics, they're still for children, but he wrote the comics with the intensity and intelligence that adults could appreciate too, and it just raised the bar for everybody. He created so many characters that you are familiar with. Let's go over a list here. Spider-Man, Hulk, Doctor Strange, the X-Men, Ant-Man, Iron Man, Thor. He wrote the phrase, "Whoever holds this hammer, if he be worthy, shall forever possess the power of Thor." He created Black Panther, Silver Surfer, Fantastic Four, Daredevil, just to name a few. My first exposure to Stan Lee would have to be the 1960s Spider-Man cartoon that was in syndication in the 70s. Spider-Man, such a great character, all-powerful, can sling webs, can fly around the city, fight crime, fight supervillains, but he always needed to go home and have dinner with his Aunt May to make sure she's okay, and he had to do his homework, and he had to try to hold a job too. So very relatable human things there. With great power comes great responsibility, as written by Stan Lee. Stan Lee also tackled social issues, and that he did that through the X-Men. And the X-Men is a commentary on bigotry, hate, and racism. There was no place for hate in Stan Lee's world. Stan wanted all people to know that they had the power of good inside them, and all they needed to do is choose to use it. Stan wrote about this a lot. So in the back of Marvel Comics back in the day, there was a section called Stan's Soapbox. People would write letters to Stan and he would answer. So there's 2 selections I would like to read for you, just to give you some insight into Stan Lee. From Stan's Soapbox. Let's lay it right on the line. Bigotry and racism are among the deadliest social ills plaguing the world today. But unlike a team of costume supervillains, they can't be halted with a punch in the nose or a zap from a ray gun. The only way to destroy them is to expose them, to reveal them for the insidious evils they really are. The bigot is an unreasoning hater, one who hates blindly, fanatically, indiscriminately. If he has a hang-up about a black man, he hates all black men. If a redhead once offended him, he hates all redheads. If some foreigner beat him to a job, he's down on all foreigners. He hates people he's never seen, people he's never known, with equal intensity, with equal venom. Now, we're not trying to say it's unreasonable for one human being to bug another, but although anyone has the right to dislike another individual, it's totally irrational, patently insane, to condemn an entire nation, to vilify an entire religion. Sooner or later, we must learn to judge each other on our own merits. Sooner or later, if man is ever to be worthy of his destiny, we must fill our hearts with tolerance. For then, and only then, will we be truly worthy of the concept that man was created in the image of God, a God who calls us all his children. Very powerful. And we have another quote here too, in response to a reader from Stan's Soapbox. From time to time we receive letters from readers who wonder why there's so much moralizing in our mags. They take great pains to point out that comics are supposed to be escapist reading and nothing more. But somehow, I can't see it that way. It seems to me that a story without a message, however subliminal, is like a man without a soul. In fact, even the most escapist literature of all, old-time fairy tales and heroic legends, contained moral and philosophical points of view. At every college campus where I may speak, there's as much discussion of war and peace, civil rights, and the so-called youth rebellion as there is of our Marvel mags per se. None of us lives in a vacuum. None of us is untouched by the everyday events about us, events which shape our stories just as they shape our lives. Sure, our tales can be called escapist, but just because something's for fun doesn't mean we have to blanket our brains while we read it. Now, in 2008, Marvel Studios released Iron Man with Robert Downey Jr. And soon after, the universe, the creative universe of superheroes that Stan Lee created, was unleashed upon the world. Each film breaking box office records and taking in billions of dollars. No longer were superhero movies just for me, being a big nerd, and all other nerds. They were for everybody. Moms, dads, aunts, uncles, girlfriends, boyfriends. They were for everybody. There are great stories with great characters and modern morality plays. Stan Lee continued to have cameos in these movies, and they were something cherished by fans and looked forward to. And it's my understanding that he has filmed some in advance, so we should see Stan showing up in some movies here in the future, and that's a good thing. I'm glad he did that. And it's actually interesting because in these cameos, he would be a bus driver, a custodian, a postman, always something small, a small little show-up role in each one of these movies. So a lot of speculation began to happen on the internet and also in my own mind that, is there more to this character that Stan Lee is playing? Is he truly a postman? Or is he perhaps the character called the Watcher? And the Watcher is an eternal race of alien beings. I believe they hang out on the moon and they just watch humanity and study humanity. They're not to interfere with humanity, but they're all knowing and all powerful. But I think there's one Watcher that does sort of interfere and help out humanity time to time, especially when Galactus is coming. And so it was very interesting in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, Stan had a cameo and he was sitting on a planet talking to the Watchers and telling them about humans. And yeah, I'm hanging out with the humans and they're pretty cool and they do this and they do that, which validated the internet speculation and rumors that Stan Lee could very well be a Watcher. Thank you for joining me on this video and allowing me to discuss Stan Lee, his importance to my life and to many lives, and allowing me to thank him for making all children of all shapes and sizes and ages feel like superheroes. Sir, you will not be forgotten. I want to leave with just two more quotes. This quote by the Watcher of all people. The Watcher said, "The power of prayer is still the greatest ever known. in this endless, eternal universe, said by the Watcher. And from the Thor comic, written by Stan Lee, and now, until we meet again, may the blessings of Asgard be showered upon you. Thank you again, sir. I'm going to leave with Stan Lee's most famous phrase, which means upward and onward to greater things. Thank you, Stan Lee. Excelsior. With that, as always, I will see you on the new.